I'm excited because 1 week away from the draft, 1 week away from finding out who's going to be the next big class of the NWSL, because when you look back, our social media for Attacking Third has been doing a really cool job of highlighting some of the past number one draft picks and what they've been able to do. And you look at some of those players like Naomi Girma last year, Sophia Smith in 2020, Emily Fox in 2021. These are players that have gone on to the national team to make incredible impacts at their clubs. It's really exciting. It's the turn of a page. It's the start of a new chapter. It's the start of the 2023 season for the NWSL. I'm thrilled and I'm stoked to be here and to chat with you about it.
Look, I always love chatting all things NWSL. I love doing that alongside you here on A3, and I cannot wrap my head around the fact that this is essentially our draft episode. I mean, we've been chatting about the draft off mic, I feel like for quite some time, and before we knew it, we rang in the new year. And it's officially 2023. We're celebrating this is a World Cup year, but now we are also looking ahead and hitting the ground running with NWSL. So 1 week away, draft is going to be held in Philadelphia this year at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, right at the Convention Center. Again, Thursday, January 12th. You can get all kinds of exclusive coverage with us right here on Attacking Third. And a little bit of breaking news. We're both going to be there. We will be in attendance at the NWSL Draft. So we're very excited to share that news with you all. And make sure you tune in for all sorts of coverage. It's going to start live at 6 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network, Paramount Plus, and CBS Sports HQ. And it's an exciting time.
It's incredibly exciting. Yeah, I mean, we'll be there. I'm excited to talk about it, doing live stuff. So everyone be sure to follow, download, subscribe, Attacking Third. That way you get all of our draft coverage, because this year's a little different with the draft because the player registration is open, and it's been open for a bit. It actually closes on January 9th, Monday, January 9th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. But this year, players under the age of 18 can enter the NWSL draft. And that's a first, because there's been a lot of chit chat about the discovery process, how we get younger players into the league, why it wasn't available before, but now it's there. We talked about it when these rules first dropped, maybe a month or so ago, but players under the age of 18, they can enter the draft. Each team is limited to only 2 players under 18. Their contract must be signed within 30 days of them being on the roster, and the contract must run through the season in which they turn 18. They can't be waived or traded until the player turns 18. The parents are going to live with them, or the guardian has to live with them when they go to that club. There's a lot of little caveats there just to make sure that the under 18 players are safe and ready to go, but there are still players signing up and registering for the draft. There's a list on NWSL.com that everyone can go and look at. It's a live list that's updating that everyone can check out, because there's a lot of people registered. There are a lot of players registered. There's a lot of college players that want to get in, and it's incredibly competitive to get into this.
Yeah, I mean, when the preliminary list of players dropped, it was, I think, just over 90 players or so who had declared themselves eligible as part of the registration process. And since that preliminary list was dropped, more players have, declared themselves for the draft. And with the deadline coming up next Monday on the 9th, I would anticipate that there's going to be more players who go ahead and sort of stake their place in the upcoming drafts. That's typically what's happened before in the past. As someone who has covered multiple drafts at this point, both in person and virtually, I'm very grateful that the deadline is a few days out. I remember covering NWSL drafts where the deadline for player registration was literally midnight the day before. And let me tell you, that's complete. If people love chaos and love to tie that in with the NWSL, that absolutely was a contributing factor within past drafts before. So hopefully this window of time will maybe clear up some things, in terms of the build up to the actual draft day on Thursday. Because I think when you look at this registration list as it's compiled right now, it says it was last updated on the NWSL website on January 2nd, so just in after the new year. But I would anticipate that if you're looking at that, you're maybe wondering if maybe there's a player or two, if you're wondering if they're still going to end up on this registration list, and what that might look like come January 9th for the deadline. I know folks are curious. You mentioned the fact how with this draft that there are players who are under the age of 18 who can officially go ahead and declare as eligible for the draft. And this is cool to talk about because there have been constant updates to the draft since its inception with NWSL, because let's be real, the whole concept of a draft is a very, very American concept. This isn't something that you necessarily see in other leagues across the globe and with the game. So this is something that is very uniquely American. So to sort of go through this draft episode, I'm sure folks will watch this and sort of, want to get some questions hopefully answered, and hopefully we can do that for you on A3. But I like that in this iteration of the draft, this version, that there is the possibility for players who are younger to go ahead and declare for the draft. And there are obviously, like you mentioned, Lisa, those rules in place and structure in place to sort of make sure that there's protections for players who are minors in this country, essentially. So we'll see if I'm sure folks are checking daily if somebody like Alyssa Thompson is going to be on this list. This is someone who was called into the last few United States women's national team camps. Is this a player that we might see come January 9th on that deadline? And if she does declare, is this going to be a player that's immediately going to be viewed as an overall number one pick?
That's a big question. I am definitely refreshing the NWSL draft page just because there are a lot of people that maybe aren't on there that I was expecting to see. People in our chat shouting out saying that sleep, eat, repeat. Hey, it's going to be hard to beat last year's draft class. Hey, last year's draft class was really good. We had Naomi Gurman number 1, Jalen Howell, Alex Luera. There was some really good draft picks last year, but Del Morva saying, hey, this is going to be extremely exciting. Can't wait for that. People are excited that we're going. We're really excited to be there. But there's a lot of players that also aren't on the draft list as already at this point. Like someone like Jenna Nightswanger from FSU, a player that I've been expecting to register for the draft, hasn't yet as of the January 2nd, but we'll see. But there's also a lot of teams in the NWSL that have some holes to fill, right? When you look at the rosters and the free agency, there's still a lot of question marks surrounding rosters for this league, and what's going to happen in the draft is a perfect time to bulk up.
No, I'm with you 100%. I think that's maybe where we have to start, perhaps. Let's talk a little bit about the draft itself, and what it's going to look like, or what that means. So the NWSL draft is composed of 4 rounds, and within each round there are going to be 12 picks. So a total of 48 picks that can be made in this year's version of the draft. And as of right now, again, we're just going off of the league website, so bear with us, and as some things will likely change in terms of the selection order, specifically starting in the first round. But as of right now, the NWSL first round of the draft has New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC with the number 1 overall pick, and number 2 and number 3 belong to Orlando Pride. Number 4 belongs to Racing Louisville FC. Angel City FC is slotted at number 5, and number 6 North Carolina Courage, and number 7 Chicago Red Stars. Number 8, Houston Dash. Number 9, North Carolina Courage. Number 10 is listed as New Jersey North Gotham FC, but this is, again, one of those picks where we think could possibly shift to Kansas City Current, depending on some conditional things within previous trades between the two sides. But as of the league's website, as of now, it's listed as Gotham for number 10. Number 11, North Carolina Courage, and number 12, Portland Thorns FC. So nearly everyone getting a chance to make a selection in that first round, with the exception of possibly Kansas City and San Diego Wave FC and Washington Spirit. So 3 clubs out of the 12 might be getting a look at some players in this first round alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is where we will see some movement. Up until there are some like asterisks to this first round draft order about what could change. There are some changes that'll happen midnight the night before. There are trades that'll be happening during the draft, as most Americans know who have watched drafts previously, not even NWSL drafts, but other drafts as well. I think it would behoove Washington Spirit to try to wiggle their way into this first round and make a trade for one of these picks. This is a team that in Washington Spirit that is pretty light on their roster right now. And as a club that just won the NWSL championship 2 seasons ago, I think they could get some top talent, but they're not in this first round. I think you look at someone like a North Carolina Courage that has 3 picks in this first round. That's impressive to see because they also need to bulk up, right? Like when we look at the past year and what happened, there may be only 1 or 2 teams that I'm like, they're going to be fine if they stick with the same roster that they have, or they've made a lot of changes in the offseason. I look at a team like Kansas City Current, what they've been able to do in the offseason, getting some forwards, getting some midfielders from Chicago Red Stars and Morgan Gautral and Colaprico, DiBernardo, excuse me. These are players that have bulked up the Kansas City midfield. And this is a team that went all the way to the NWSL championship last year and the final, and then lost to Portland. So they have a good base and they have a good foundation. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them make too many crazy picks in this draft.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm curious. We talked about that 10 spot, the number 10 pick in this first round, and you bring up Kansas City. I'm looking at some of these teams, and I'm curious if maybe they're interested in trading out of this first round. I think Kansas City is a team that has shown in their short history in the NWSL that they're not intimidated to make some headlines in the draft, to move some money around, make some ambitious picks. Is this the year where we maybe see them continue that trend, or is this the year where we see them maybe transition a little bit and sort of see themselves, kind of maybe trade out of that? Are they in a place currently where they want to sort of keep their core intact and continue to build off of what they've already established as a franchise, or do they want to continue adding pieces through the draft for this roster? So I'm looking at those teams who might not necessarily be in this first round. Are they going to trade in, or are they going to be content to be, to hold off and maybe make picks in the later rounds?